if you're a lover of tequila or mezcal and you want to see how it's grown and how it's distilled, my friend, you're going to have to travel all the way to Mexico. If you're in Maui, which a lot of people go to from California, you can come down and see how agave spirits are made from the blue agave right here on the island of Maui. Let's go and check it out. Right here at Wakalulu Distillery, Hawaiian blue agave spirits. They're open, let's go. Here's the man, the myth, the legend, the guy who started it all like a decade ago, Paul Turner. Congratulations on your beautiful agave farm. So tell us, like, how'd you get this whole thing going? What caused you? What was the inspiration?
Well, the inspiration was I bought a large piece of land here that was ag property years ago, and I was trying something to grow on it.
Right.
And I was experimenting with different citrus trees and different things. But here, don't make much money.
Right.
And then on a lark, I found a nursery that was selling a handful of agave.
Right.
And I loved
Ding, 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 ding.
exactly. And I thought, I like tequila. Maybe this would be fun. I'll just do it. It was more of a novelty. So I got those 5. I put them in the ground, and they just took off. Yeah, they just grew like mad. So I started looking into it, researching it, found out what's the right climate for the plant, and this is like the ideal climate. And it's year-round, the ideal temperature and rainfall for the plant. In Mexico, they're typically harvesting the piñas that weigh around 100 pounds, maybe a little more, a little less, up to 200 pounds. And for us, we're regularly harvesting 300-400 pound plants, and we've had them up almost to 600 pounds.
And I see a big boy over here. Let's walk over there and catch that one.
Yeah, but this one's not big by any means on the ones we've been harvesting. Like a lot of them the leaves are 8 feet tall.
Wow.
And probably 14 feet across.
Wow.
Yeah,
And so that's a heavy plant. All right, what's your harvest technique there? You have a little tractor?
No, it's pretty much all done by hand.
Yeah.
So you with a tool, we can show you later.
The koa?
Yeah,
Big
the koa.
shovel-like cutter?
Really extremely sharp metal blade on the end of a handle.
Right.
And you get in there and you just start lobbing the leaves off. And once you're done, that ball is connected to the root structure with just a small stem, and you get in there and you chop that away. And,
Roll it onto the trailer?
yeah, exactly.
And then there they are.
Yeah, there's a load that
Let's take a look at these.
we brought up this morning.
So these are, what would you say these are, like 100 pounds?
No, that's
150?
That's probably over 200.
200.
Wow. Yeah. That's probably 60 or something. That's probably 125.
Okay.
Yeah. So
And you said the big one over there, what's that going to be?
I don't know. That one's 5 years old, maybe a little over 5 years. So
Okay.
it's still got another year to grow.
Okay.
So that one, as it stands, probably I'm at a 350. So it's probably going to be a 400 pounds,
Wow.
500 pounds.
And you just roll them up the ramp here.
Yeah, it's kind of a shallow ramp, and there's a technique where you can stab the koa into, when they're really big, you stab it in there, and then you roll it forward.
Oh, okay.
Wedge it with your foot, and
Right.
then just move it up like a logger would move a log up.
Well, I know in California guys are growing these things, but I don't think anyone's set up their own distillery where they're growing them. And I know you have this beautiful distillery. Can you show us the whole setup?
Sure.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's see how we end up with the end product.
So we need to split them because they're too heavy to handle and too heavy to put in the oven and move around. So we'll split them up, and we actually had to modify a log splitter, put a long blade on it so we can chop it into pieces. So we'll chop it into about 30 or 40 pound pieces.
Okay.
So we can manage it. But this is one that's been split in half, and you can see the very center of it. It's kind of the texture of a jicama or something like that, or a tough potato.
And I know I've seen guys in videos in Mexico just eating this stuff.
Don't eat that.
Don't eat that.
Yeah. Yeah, the funny thing
Is that a dare?
The funny thing about agave is in its raw form, this juice is really caustic.
Oh.
It has oxalate acid or
Yeah,
something like that.
oxalic acid.
Yeah. And so if you get that sprayed on the tender part of your skin, it'll welt up. And if you eat it, it's going to just it's going to mess up your throat.
End of story.
I've learned that the hard way. Yeah. And so these are the base of the leaves where it's connecting to that centerpiece. And so all this is usable.
Okay.
And the leaves have some usable plant or matter in there, some starches, but it's just too much work to get to it. Well, you don't want the skin. The blue skin of the leaves is really bitter and waxy, and you just don't want it in the process. And
Okay.
it affects
You
the
compost
flavor.
it? What do you do with it?
Yeah, we just cut them and let it compost on the ground.
Well, let's see the oven where this must go.
Yeah.
It's over here, right? Look at that.
So these are our steam ovens. Yeah, you can see some of the pieces. So from that white plant matter, it caramelizes. And now it's
Now it's edible, huh?
Yeah, now it's definitely edible.
All right.
It's actually
let's
like-
try to eat
like
this. I eat, you know me, I eat
Here's a
everything.
better piece. Yeah.
Oh, nice. So the aroma here is amazing. It's just like sweet. It smells like cooking molasses or sugar cane or something.
Yeah.
This tastes really good. It's really sweet.
So we'll put about 800 pounds of plant in here.
Okay.
Steam cook it for 42 hours. So
It's a little hard to eat.
Let's do some math. Okay, so
We're talking anywhere from like 60-pound, real small ones, up to like 300-pound pinos.
yeah.
How many pounds per bottle?
Yeah, it takes about 8 to 10 pounds. At one plant, we'll get 30 to 50 bottles.
Not a lot.
Yeah,
Wow.
or even more from a real large one. The thing is, we've had to build and develop all this
A
stuff.
lot of infrastructure.
Yeah, there's no buying the agave processing equipment down at the local Home Depot.
Yeah, so you kind of had to innovate here.
Yeah. So this oven's made, it's a vermiculite concrete. The vermiculite gives it an insulation value, so we don't lose a lot of heat when we're cooking. To hold most of the heat into the oven.
Interesting. This is the exhaust.
No, that's where the steam's coming in.
Okay.
Yeah, so the steam's coming in here. The oven, the oven collects any juices or condensate that happens, and it drips out air. We'll collect
Okay, I was
that.
gonna say you don't want to waste that.
Yeah, well, the first 24 hours is just muck. So the steam is collecting on the plant and then dripping off, and it's actually washing it real well. And so the first 24 hours, it is this muck and,
Okay, you throw
and
that
dirt.
out.
We throw it out, and then after that, it starts to caramelize like this and excrete sugars. And so we'll collect that and we'll add that to the fermentation because there's a lot of usable sugar in it.
You're trying to kick your tobacco habit, your chewing tobacco. Just get this stuff here. It's. I've never tried chewing tobacco, but I imagine it's like this. This is much more healthy. All right, let's go check it out.
So we put the pieces in here and we start squishing them down and breaking them up as the pieces run under that wheel. And then finally we drop that wheel all the way down, and it really just starts mashing the fibers, and it pulls the sugars off of the fibers.
is that wheel just weighted or is it hydraulically pushed down?
It's just by its own weight.
Okay.
That wheel weighs about probably 400 pounds.
Okay. Is there something inside it that can cause it to weigh that much? How does it get that mass?
Well, it's a urethane wheel. It's actually a forklift.
I was gonna say it looks like a forklift wheel.
So it's got a thick steel band that it's connected to, and then it's got steel plates on the outside, so all together.
Yeah. So you just ordered all this stuff on Amazon, right?
Just
kidding.
So this is a little different take. A traditional way of making agave spirits is,
A donkey.
well, they have this wheel pull around the pan,
With a donkey.
or a horse.
Yeah, a horse.
More modern ways, they'll have some sort of mechanical device driving it.
Right.
But that causes the operator or the person working it to constantly stay in front of the wheel, pushing the fibers underneath.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah, with this one, it's both feeds it through, and then if there's any pieces that don't, get stuck to the sides or whatever, it's easy just to push it in by hand and stay in one place.
Right.
So you're not bending over.
Okay.
So we can't do as much at one time, but it processes it really quick.
And so, what's your rate of processing for like a round of this?
Yeah, so for the 800 pounds that we cook at one time, it'll take about 3 hours to process all that and make it into a mash.
Oh, let's go see the syrup coming out the other end over there.
Yeah.
Is that coming out yet?
Well, first we'll let this grind for a while.
Okay.
You can still see it's kind of fibrous.
Oh, yeah.
We just grind it right down into a jam, a thick jam.
Oh.
And then once it gets to that point, we'll start adding filtered water to it.
Oh, okay, to get the juices out.
Yeah, to separate the
Okay.
sugar.
So the juices aren't flowing yet.
And right now, this is too high of a sugar content to ferment.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, so this is probably 30 or 40% sugar. That's way too high to do a fermentation. So we add water and bring it down to about 11% sugar.
Okay. I guess that's a good thing. If you're creating that much sugar, you can dilute it with that much water, which causes you to have more product.
Really the function of how much sugar you have.
Yeah, you just have to have the right amount of sugar.
Well, you have more sugar, you have more end product, you have less sugar. So if you add, you know, you can do the fermentation to 5%. You just have to wait more heating up that.
Okay.
You know.
Yeah, it's a fine
extra
balance.
Water, yeah.
Yeah.
So about the maximum sugar content you can have is about 15% before it'll start affecting the yeast production. You can go down as low as you want, but really hard to tank. You gotta use more energy.
Yeah, see, I could imagine myself growing the plant, but never in a million years would I try to do what you're doing here. This seems extremely complicated, costly, and experimental.
Yeah.
But it sounds like you worked it all out. That's great.
Yeah, and we try to use as little energy here as possible. I mean, we're completely off the grid, so all our electricity is solar powered and stored in batteries. And then we use propane to run our boiler, which isn't necessarily the cheapest way to create steam, but propane is the lowest carbon emitter.
Right.
We do that.
So this is a green. It's green about agave spirit you could possibly can make.
Pretty close.
Yeah.
Pretty close.
Okay.
I mean, if I spent $1 million on a giant solar system, then you could maybe run less steam, but
Get it even lower.
then you have to spend all the money and the resources to make the
Right. Yeah. I doubt there are many other distilleries that are as eco-conscious as this one.
Yeah.
What I'm hearing.
The other interesting thing here is that we're a closed loop in that we farm here and we process here, and then all the byproduct of the process goes back in the field.
Right.
So we take all this spent fibers, all the leftover juices from the distillation, and we spread that back on the ground.
I was going to say these fibers would be wonderful for soil amendment if they're ground up a little bit.
Yeah, they need to be tempered. So we have a pile down in the lower field, and we're mixing it with wood chips.
Okay.
So as we harvest this field here, we'll amend the soil.
Bring
with
that back.
Yeah, to bring some more organic matter and any nutrients that are left over in here.
Nice.
And, you know, it's about 92% of the mash that we end up producing is byproduct. So you only extract about 8% from all this when you're done.
Kind of like gold mining.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So all the finished finished fermentation has lots of nutrition in it. You know, the yeast has created a lot of thank yeast, B vitamins, and whatnot that aren't in the final product. And so that, instead of just throwing it away, whatever, we put it back in the soil.
It might be interesting to do something else with that, like make some body lotion or who knows what, you know?
Yeah.
Someday, you know, if you can find some use for it. All right, what's the next step after this?
Well, once they get this full, they'll drain it in here.
Okay.
And this is
The strainer. And look at that.
So that's the final juice. You can do the fermentation where there's fibers in it, and that's perfectly fine, but it's not the whole process.
Yeah, I was going to say, it makes a cleaner process, just have the liquid.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, so what do we have here?
Yeah, so it's getting pumped in the tank. We end up with about 230 pounds of mash when we're all done with this crushing. And here's when it's up and running.
Oh boy.
This one's almost played out. You can see the movement in there, and that's what's going on is
That's the fermentation process, right?
yeah, the yeast is consuming the sugar, and then it's emitting alcohol and a bit of CO2. And so the bubbles of the CO2 float to the surface. So when this fermentation's done, it'll be about 6 or 7% alcohol in there.
Okay.
Yeah,
Then,
it's a strong beer.
okay. And then that's what you distill.
Yeah.
The rest of the distill.
Yeah, so we distill that twice over here.
Okay.
It's a pot still. And so the first distillation brings the alcohol level up to about 25, 26%. And then you get rid of all that muck and
Starts cleaning it up.
and the compounds you don't want, yeah. So then we run it through for a second distillation, and that brings the concentration of alcohol up to about 63%. And so then we'll adjust the proof from there, whether we're aging it in an oak barrel we'll age it at about 55%.
Okay.
Or if we're bottling it as a silver, then we'll bring the proof down to 80 proof, 40% alcohol.
Okay. Let's go check out Distilled.
Yeah.
Okay, Paul, so like I said, you can't just get it on the Amazon.com. You got to make it. You made this.
Right.
What was that like?
It was fun.
I bet it was fun.
Yeah, all the proper work and welding and whatnot. I've done product design, engineering, and fabrication my whole life.
So when you say you made it, you obviously designed it. Did you actually do all these welds and everything too? And
Yeah, I didn't make the kettle, but stainless steel, and that are better suited to a place that has that. But I did all the copper work. So I got the flat sheets of copper. We cut it out, rolled it up, painted it all smooth.
that's so cool.
Yeah.
So how long did it take you to like fabricate this whole piece?
A couple weeks.
A couple weeks.
Yeah.
Your wife, are you married?
Yeah.
Does she think you're crazy?
A little? Yeah, but not because it is.
Oh, that's what other stuff you want to ask about.
Yeah.
All right.
So the stainless, the kettle stainless steel, and that's because it holds the heat in a little better than if it was copper. Copper radiates heat or emits heat or dissipates the heat really fast. So this retains the heat in better,
Which
and
makes
it's
you
also-
more efficient.
Yeah. What's happening here is we're heating this up, and that's turning the alcohols into vapors. So vapors are rising up over the top and going into this condenser. So we make all this area where the vapors are getting in contact with, that's made out of copper. And because copper brings some of the sulfur out of the spirit and makes it smoother and better tasting.
And so it comes down through here, you cool it off with some cool water.
Yeah, yeah. It goes through a series of tubes in here that are flooded with cold water, and that condenses the vapors back into a liquid, and then the liquids come out right here. And it's
Look at that. Oh, it's flowing too. Get in there close. That's the magic.
yeah.
And then so you've got a few different tanks over here, looks like you're utilizing.
Yep. So we do 2 distillations, and we collect the first distillation in the left tank. So we'll run 4 of those first distillations, and then put all that back in the still and do a second run. And the second run is where you do the separations. You take off, they call it the heads, the hearts, and the tails. The hearts are the good part that you want to drink.
Okay.
The heads are the nasty stuff that will make you blind and, impart harshness to the spirit.
That's the loco version.
That's the logo. Yeah. So that's separated out, and then the end, there's no alcohol being produced, but it gets really foul smells and taste to it. So you separate that, and you just keep the hearts. Anyway, so the hearts are collected in these 2 tanks, and we do the distillation slightly different, whether we're making a silver spirit or whether we're going to age it in barrels.
All right, so
Yeah.
I think we're getting close to the really fun part of maybe seeing an end product.
Yeah. Exactly.
You got one?
Well, we got a bottle right here.
Oh, so there it is.
Yeah, so this is the 2 types of spirits we have now. We have more in the works. But right now we have a silver, which is unaged. Like I said, it comes out of the still, we proof it and put it in the bottle. This one's aged 3 months. And those are the barrels that we age in. They're North American white oak with a medium char on the inside. The charring is like a charcoal, and that further mellows and smooths the spirit.
And that gets the color too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the real magic is from bringing compounds out of the wood of the barrels and mixing with compounds in the spirit, and that develops new compounds. And that's what gives an aged spirit, like it's vanilla flavors or cinnamon, chocolate, that sort of thing, comes from those new compounds that are developed. And we have longer aged spirits that are in the works, and those ones are being aged in ex-bourbon barrels, which are up on the top. So they go we put the spirit in the new oak barrels for about 3 months, and then we move it up to the ex-bourbon barrels. And then it just sits there and does its magic and mellows and creates those compounds.
And you've mastered this over time in experimentation, I would imagine, and you feel like you've gotten to like a really ideal state here? Because it seems like it used to be a lot of hit and miss until you figure it out.
Well,
You're always figuring it out.
I mean, I wouldn't say I have it all figured
You don't
out.
have it.
There's a lot.
You're
there's
way
a lot
ahead of
for it.
most.
Yeah, but the fun thing about all this is the science is pretty simple,
Mm-hmm.
and the principles are pretty simple. It's the variables that is where all the art is. There's just so many variables on how you grow, how you ferment, how you distill, and how you do the aging. And so all those different variables are what adds up to whether your spirit is
Right.
good or not.
So
we're lucky that this is that Dale growing environment, so the beans are really sweet, they're really flavorful, and that just makes everything.
well, I love to hear how you can see the whole entire process from growing all the way to the finished product. This is really fantastic. So I do know that the way that I kicked my ice cream habit, which was really bad, was I went to work at an ice cream store. And it was great for the first month or two, and then it was like, I think I've had enough ice cream. So now that you work at an Agave spirits distillery and you own it and you operate it, are you more inclined to have some spirits or less inclined now?
I would say it hasn't changed.
Hasn't changed.
Yeah,
That's
maybe
good.
maybe it's more so because going through all this development process and learning about it, you learn all the subtleties of the flavors and
You have to be
and
the
everything
guinea
that
pig.
went into it. Yeah, so drinking any spirit, this or a tequila or whiskey or rum, I know those flavors more, so identify them. It's a more interesting experience. So it actually has enhanced it.
They say that there's 3 guys for Anheuser-Busch that travel around to the different breweries who taste the beer constantly to make sure it's the same beer every single time.
Yeah.
And those guys are insured for millions of dollars because of their taste buds.
I bet.
Have you done that to yourself yet?
No.
You have to think about it.
Well, it's interesting because the fun part of a craft distillery, a smaller thing, smaller than Budweiser, is there's going to be variations in every batch. So if you come back and try our silver next year, it'll probably have some slight variations, based on the plants and everything else.
There's a wildfire with smoke in the air or anything like that.
Possibly,
That's what
yeah. So
happens
we're not
in
trying to
barrels.
make every one exactly the same.
Yeah.
If we want to do that, then we have to have a bunch of different barrels that have variations, and then you do blending.
Do they have
That takes
dates?
the fun out
They
of
do
it.
have dates on them.
Yeah.
That's great. So you might have like a whole collection. So basically, you need to come here every year and buy a bottle every year, and then you'll have the full lineup, and you can compare and contrast the different years.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much, Paul. This is awesome, and I want you to ring me up for one of each of these.
Oh, right on.
And that sounds great.